All right, so it looks like we are live.
So, Ajay, I can't hear you.
Oops, I think we're back. I don't know what happened there, but there was a disconnection. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. You were frozen, but you are back now. Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, let us start once again, and I hope this internet issue does not persist. What's up, Action Tribe? AJ here, host and founder of My Seven Chakras, my7chakras.com, the show where we help you experience effortless healing, awakening, and abundance. In today's episode, we talk about some really amazing topics such as meditation, intermittent silence, how to awaken the inner consciousness within, influences from ancient wisdom such as the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, and Krishna, and most importantly, understanding the perspective of a doctor when it comes to wellness and spirituality. So make sure that you listen till the very end because we've got some really important nuggets of wisdom that you can use in your life. So if you like to explore these topics in your car, or maybe even if you're at home, if you're working from home, then make sure that you hit the subscribe button on your Apple device. Or if you're listening to this on Spotify, then make sure you hit follow, because that does something special to the algorithm that allows our podcast to come in front of people who would never listen to our show or never know about our show. So do your part, hit subscribe or hit follow. All right. And if you'd like to join the official Facebook for this podcast, and make sure that you go to my7chakras.com/tribe. That's my7chakras.com/tribe, where we have all the exclusive discussions and sessions of when it comes to breathwork and yoga. So make sure you join our Facebook group. And with that being said, let's bring on our special guest for today, Dr. Krishna Bhatta, who is a surgeon, author, and an inventor, currently working as chief of urology at Eastern Maine Medical Center in Maine. Dr. Bhatta is both practical and spiritual. He developed a fascination with spiritual studies early in his life and has authored a book titled Journey from Life to Life, Achieving Higher Purpose. He also is a creator of Relaxx app that focuses on intermittent silence, meditation, and the art of high energy living. And he says our physical body, energy body, and friendly mind help us know our flame, our consciousness. So, some really amazing topics to explore on today's session. So, Dr. Krishna, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Ajay, I will call you Ajay. And I know your name is Aditya. So it's wonderful to meet you. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Wonderful. And are you ready to inspire?
That is my job. I like to be inspired and I inspire people. I always say my work inspires me, my patients inspire me, my colleagues inspire me. And that's how life should be.
Wonderful. And we usually start off our show with any inspirational quote. So, is there a quote on your mind right now? And how do you apply that quote in your life?
So, Ajay, the quote is very simple. Long time ago, 5,000 years ago, you mentioned about Gita and Krishna and Arjun. So,
Hmm.
Arjun asked Krishna a question. How do I control my mind, which is wavering and wandering and all the time? And Krishna said a simple answer: practice, Arjun, practice. So I use that and I advise your listeners to do that as well. So practice what? I mean, like you
Hmm.
practice the show, we practice tennis to become good tennis player. Here
Hmm.
we are going to talk about practicing intermittent silence, meditation, and that on a regular basis.
Wonderful. And I really, really admire and respect the practice of practice, or the idea of practicing. I mean, if I go to my first few episodes, sometimes I feel shy. I don't even want to go to my first 5 episodes because I deep down know how much I've evolved as a communicator, as a host. But it's true, practice is one thing that makes us closer and closer to perfection. There's also another quote from the Bhagavad Gita, which says, and I think Krishna says, do not be too attached to the result, only focus on the actions, because you have no right over the results, but what you have control over is the actions that you take in your practice, right? Something along those lines. But
Something along those lines. We can talk about it if in later on. I vary slightly from the conventional explanations
right,
because result is important.
absolutely, it's important to monitor results from time to time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, cool. We can definitely dive into it, but before diving into
sure.
that aspect of philosophy, I was hoping to start from the very beginning. Maybe you can tell us, where were you born and what was your childhood like?
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have heard the state of Bihar.
Mhm.
So there is a small village, and I was born there. And actually, I went to the school in the village, and it was a good school. All the teachers were good, and my friends and everybody, the whole company, and it was fun growing up. But growing up, one thing was there. My father was a very fond of Gita, and he did his PhD from London School of Economics, a long time ago in 50s. But he wanted to come back to India and teach other people. And at that time, I didn't appreciate Bhagavad Gita. I didn't appreciate all, there were all these saints coming to our house and all these educated or, high, um, influencers coming to our house. But as teenager, we didn't care about it. And here I am. I love that book, and with any passion it can be. So that was the high school and the college days. Then, of
Mhm.
course, we left home and went to medical school, and that's when I got this fascination of doing meditation. And there were two or three of us who were kind of rebels. We'll wear orange or wear white and
Mm.
meditate in the medical school fields while other people were doing other things. It was interesting growing up then,
Right.
but this continued, life continued, and we pursued our medical career, of course.
Yeah.
So, it like Krishna was a mainstream person. I want to be a mainstream person. I
Mm.
don't want to leave life and go and do something else. I want to do both of it together. So
Right.
that's how it shapes up to now.
Wonderful, wonderful. And also, before progressing, I'm curious. As a child, you said that certain ideals did not appeal to you. Maybe the Bhagavad Gita or the Mahabharata when you were a kid. So, what about that did not appeal to you that changed later on as you were an adult?
So, Ajay, I don't know if you have children or not. Sometimes, when you say something to the kids, it
Right.
seems like they're ignoring it and they don't, they're not listening to it. I was that child at that time, and
Hmm.
but things were sinking in. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I didn't understand the value or the importance, but
Hmm.
of course, something must have sunk in, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so as a parent, also, I kept doing that, to the kids, and
Mm.
it sounded like they didn't listen to me, but probably it will show up somewhere after they have finished their, building up their career.
Absolutely. And the reason why I asked this question is because when I was a kid, my grandfather, who is now deceased, had told me about the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata. And he said that if there's something that you can do in your lifetime is to read this. And so just like you pointed out, something sank within me. It sort of didn't make sense back then. But as you know now, I'm all about yoga. I'm all about Ayurveda, Tantra, and of course, wanting to learn more and more about Krishna and Rama. So it's fascinating how that thing can sink in like a seed, which then germinates or manifests many years later. So, uh, Krishna, in your life, What sort of influence did your family have on you as a child? Were there any spiritual influences?
Yeah, as I mentioned, my father was, of course, he was professor of economics and principal, but he was deeply rooted into Gita. And, we grew up like a Brahmin family. So there were many rituals that happened. And of course, you can object to rituals, but, they all the rituals have some
Yeah.
meaning behind them. And if you can
Hmm.
get to understand them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was influenced. My mother, of course, she was a housewife, but she was always a provider, and it's like wonderful being, and all those things, they matter. They matter how you grow, where you grow. I think it
Hmm.
matters a lot. In my book, Journey from Life to Life, I have mentioned this thing that when we grew up in India,
Hmm.
every time you go, in the village or anywhere, people get hurt in their knee and they will say, oh, this is one of my karma, that I did, bad thing I did is
Yeah.
gone, or this is from my past life. You come to USA or England, nobody talks about past life. I mean, it's just not in the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one is bad or one is good, but it's just where you grow up, how you grow up, and what the surroundings are matter. And fortunately, I had a lot of opportunities to be exposed, even though I may not have understood the value, as you mentioned yourself.
Right, right. It's so fascinating because even like I came to Canada about 6 years back. I was born and brought up in Mumbai.
Hmm.
And I grew up in a Hindu family. So my dad is a Hindu, mom is a Christian. So I was exposed to both, aspects and ways of living, right? And
Hmm.
so I know that there were certain routines and traditions which did not make sense to me back then, but now it does because I'm curious to know the why. So just going to the temple, ringing the bell, my dad used to tell me that there are certain
Yeah.
vibrations that are created that influence the mind. Certain homas that we do when we burn the fire, the significance
Yeah.
of that. And so now I'm asking these questions, and luckily there are answers, and you can blend the
Yeah.
science with the spirit, and it becomes so interesting. So it's very
It's funny you
fascinating.
mentioned that,
Yeah.
because at least one of your parent was Christian or is Christian.
Yeah.
Um, my father took me to several churches.
Hmm.
So I have been to church, sat down, and follow the routines, and just to experience and also to expose that. I mean,
Yeah,
probably by that he meant that yes, there is value to all of these schools.
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm just curious. I mean, I know that spirituality plays a large part in your life, at least right now. But as a kid, did you have any spiritual experiences growing up as a child or as an adolescent? Something that happened or something you noticed that didn't quite make sense, or maybe still doesn't make sense?
No, I mean those things happen, and there's a word called minor explosions. So in
Okay.
spiritual path, um, I mean there is we feel like one day you will get enlightened.
Yeah.
Before that, there is nothing.
Yeah.
But the spiritual experiences, especially when you meditate, um, they happen in different form. I mean, not necessarily at the time of meditation, but you
Okay.
may feel like full of energy someday. Just you don't know where it came from,
Yeah.
or or some. Um, I mean, one of the shloka in Gita, and I thought it can't be true. It says if you follow a spiritual path, I mean, it talks about nishkam karma, you will have fewer obstacles. Your
Yeah.
path will be smoother. And how do you compare that? Because you don't know what it would have been without it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I truly now believe that yes, if you follow, I mean, if you just do practice meditation for a month, you will find that you suddenly the whole universe is trying to align with you. Um,
Wow.
and I'm not. I mean, it's not scientific proof for that,
Yeah.
but anecdotal or experiential proof is there then, and that's what I feel. I mean, yes, of course, we grew up with different customs and puja in the house, like routine that happens
Yeah.
in any Hindu family.
I love the term that you used called minor explosions. And through that, I think you implied that spiritual awakening does not have to happen suddenly. It's not necessarily that it happens suddenly and your kundalini energy is rising up, although that might happen. Sometimes it might
Yeah,
have happen gradually, step by step, over the years, slowly but surely. And that's wonderful. I think that
yeah,
happened to me as well. It's just these small, minor explosions that you experience from time to time, just a surge of energy sometimes, which might be
right.
an awakening by itself.
And you wish it stayed with you, right? You know?
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
so
uh,
true.
I mean, yeah, that's the one difference. Having total enlightenment is that you are in that state all the time. Minor experience,
Interesting.
experience in those things, but they go away. And
Right, right, right. And you mentioned a while back that you were born in a small village, then you attended Patna Medical College, then you
yeah,
continued your education in the UK. What sort of
yeah.
challenges did you face back then? I mean, jumping from a place in India to UK, did you face any challenges at all?
These are all challenges, but I mean that's the age for challenges, right? You want to beat the challenge or meet the challenge.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean we went there. I had to do. Everyone who goes to there as a surgical field, they want to
Okay.
do FRCS. Canada has FRCS as well. So yeah, I did FRCS from Edinburgh. Then my wife wanted me to go to London, so I went there and got FRCS from there. It was a big deal at that time.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, looking back, of course, everything is fine. But yeah, I mean, all those were challenges. You want to get the job. You want to get your kids to a school, or I mean, so all these usual challenges are there in life.
Yeah.
Um, but we will come to that. I mean, one of the things you mentioned about like I mentioned, high energy living.
Hmm.
Um, and I just wanted to touch a little bit on that. Uh, I mean, there is a description by Patanjali. He talks about a physical body. He calls it food body. Like
Hmm.
food translates into our physical body. Annamaya kosh, in
Hmm.
Sanskrit. So then the second body is pranamaya kosh. Prana is life energy. And we just pass it by that it is there in what the energy body, and that forget about it. But we all are born with a different level of energy body,
Hmm.
and if you are at a higher energy body level or higher energy level, you are a little more peaceful, you take stress differently, you don't burn out. And there are many people, like even in medicine they did a research, and they say 50% burnout rate, but 50%
Hmm.
don't burn out.
Right.
And my hypothesis is that they are born with a higher energy level. And can you do anything about it?
Mm.
So there is a whole thing I'm working on, how to conserve energy, how to create energy. Like meditation, you can create energy. I love your name, Seven Chakras. Many of my meditation in Relaxx app is chakra based,
Hmm.
because different frequency of music will affect different chakras. And so we have created, then we have mantra on chakra as well. So those are meditations created by me. But basically, it is to increase your energy level. And
Hmm.
then, the chi practice, Falun Dafa and all those Chinese practices, I mean, they are based on different, I mean, they saw energy differently, but they also, have that feeling. And some of their exercise, if you put your hand together, you can feel the energy going. I
Yeah.
mean, in the beginning, you imagine, but then after a while, it seems like you have practiced some of those, and you can feel that thing actually happening. And
Yeah.
so that energy body is an important element. I think we should be bringing into discussions of you know your age group too.
Very, very fascinating. Very true. I mean, one of the biggest shifts in my life was when I was able to start sensing the energy between my hands.
Yeah,
When you create the energy ball, and like you mentioned initially you sort of visualize, but after that, it becomes a felt experience. When you bring your hands closer, there's a sense of
you feel
repulsion.
like it.
When you
Yeah,
and then there's an attraction, and so that is the pranamaya kosha, right?
yeah, that's the
Okay.
pranamaya kosha. In our description, they have different description, but it basically, I call it energy body. I mean, but uh, there is. and nothing like you have felt it, so you can experience what you can feel what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that experience made me wonder if this is possible in maybe about 15 minutes, what else is out there, right? Because there are
Right.
people who are able to see colors, they're able to
Yeah.
see their entire energy body and much more. So, is there like a step by step path to awakening that more people are sensitized to more of the energies out there?
Well, I mean, it's a question of which field you want to go. I mean, you can, if you want to see colors, you can imagine, I mean, brain will create colors. It's a,
Yeah.
beautiful story. I'll tell you. I mean, I don't know if you have heard it already.
Yeah.
Ramakrishna Paramahansa
Hmm.
was a saint, like Vivekanand Guru, right? Ramakrishna Paramahansa. So he will sit in meditation and then he will visualize Ma Kali in front of her.
Yeah.
And that was perfect, but he wanted to go beyond that. He wanted to go, uh, where there is no roof, no shape, no nothing. But he could not go beyond that. So he had a guru, Totapuri. So
Hmm.
he came and he said, "Why don't you bring a sword, you know, uh, and cut Ma Kali?" He said, "Where will I bring the sword from?"
Hmm.
And he said, "Well, from the same place where you brought Kali." So after that, he goes into meditation and he brings the sword. So now he has a sword. Now he has Ma Kali. But he says, "She's my mother." I mean, she's like, he really felt that she's mother. How am I going to kill her?
Mm.
So Totapuri said, "Okay, I will cut make a cut on your forehead. And in that pain, you try, you do that thing, the final move." And that's
Hmm.
what exactly happened. So then he went beyond to Nirakar Samadhi, they call it. I mean, all this sounds like fascinating stories. We don't
Hmm.
know really what happened because
Yeah.
everything was internal. But it's a good story that yes, we can imagine and bring in the power of imagination. We can image things as well, and they may be as
Very true.
real as anything. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. I mean, one of the things that you talk about, I guess, which is the key to being able to use your mind to visualize and imagine and create is silence. So, what exactly is intermittent silence? Because intermittent is a very popular word nowadays. You have intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
You got intermittent hypoxia, which I'm very fascinated with as a breathwork instructor. But
Yeah.
then there's intermittent silence. What exactly is intermittent silence?
So basically, what it is that intermittent fasting, you are giving your body rest from food. I mean,
Yeah.
we sometimes overeat. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, don't listen to the body. We listen to our tongue or taste or mind. But so basically, you are giving a break to the body.
Yeah.
And in breathing, I mean, well, I don't want to digress or go away, but breathing techniques. One of them is the hyperventilation, that you wash out the carbon dioxide, right? So, so basically, there also you are giving your brain a break from too much narcosis of carbon dioxide. So the same way, intermittent silence is basically you're giving rest to your brain
Hmm.
for 10 minutes a day. And how do you do that? So there are 4 steps to this. One is you
Okay.
close your mouth. So when you close your mouth, all these speech centers and all the thought processes, you are without words. So all those centers in the brain get a break. They don't have to work now. The
Hmm.
second one is close your eyes. So all the visual pathway is resting. And then you do silent listening. Silent listening is, and it's really best done in nature. Like I have done it many times when I hike up on a mountain. I
Hmm.
just lie down there and have my AirPods and but basically intermittent silence. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You have the timer. 10 minutes later, there is a music.
Mm.
So it is in the app as well, in our app. So So basically, I just do that and just listen to the trees, rustling leaves or, blowing of the wind. And it's just amazing, the feeling. It's one of the hardest, if you call it meditation, but it's one of the hardest exercise because it's easy to do those feel good meditation trips where you go to
Yeah.
a beach or go to, ocean and then you come back. But here there is nobody to guide you. It's you for 10 minutes with yourself.
Hmm.
So the silent listening and then the silent watching of any thought that comes, you just let it just pass by. And if you get attached with one of them, doesn't matter. I mean, once you realize, you go back to, letting it just transit. So there is nothing, you cannot do anything wrong with this.
Hmm.
And but 10 minutes a day, it's amazing. After some time you will start craving for that 10 minutes because it's
Yeah.
so, brain is so cool. It's like one of the lines we use is your 86 billion neurons will thank you
Hmm.
if you practice this for 10 minutes. So that's the principle, but it also has many side effects, which are good.
Hmm.
Like like just by closing your mouth for 10 minutes you realize that you don't have to respond to people
Mm.
immediately. Like
Yeah.
email comes and you want to reply it, you create that pause in your response, and your response is more effective, your whole communication becomes more effective.
Right.
And this 10 million minute of silence, it starts growing and occupying your whole space.
Mm.
Even when you are not doing it, you just have that feeling that peace that you create, it kind of comes around to you. So those are there. And then for any serious meditation, I mean, I say, I'm not saying there is non-serious, but feel good meditations are, a lot of guided meditations are feel good. They just
Hmm.
work on your mind. But many of the deeper meditations or serious meditations has a component of silence. So once you have practiced this one, then it's easier for you to get into that mode um, quicker.
And so, what would you say the difference? Because I think you said that there's a difference between intermittent silence and meditation. Is there any difference?
Well, a difference is basically how you define it. So if you define meditation as spending any time with yourself, then basically this is one kind of meditation.
Hmm.
But I define meditation differently. There is a um, next step. So basically, intermittent silence opens the door for you to get into meditation. It's a
Oh,
gateway to meditation.
got
So
it.
now, if you are doing a chakra meditation, you are
Hmm.
letting the music work on your chakras. And then
Yeah.
comes the time of silence when you just want to experience everything. That's when suddenly the intermittent silence comes into play. But even if you just practice intermittent silence, new doors will start opening up. And but that happens with vipassana too. Vipassana is also kind of, you intermittent silence combined with breathing, like you
Mm.
you mentioned. So you combine all the four things I said, and you just watch your breathing, then it becomes vipassana. So yes, there are different combinations, but I think if you practice 10 minutes of intermittent silence, you, me, or anybody, you're preparing yourself for the best experience for meditation.
Hmm.
So that's how I try to distinguish it.
Yeah, it seems silence is definitely a worthy cause to work towards, especially because everyone's got their jobs, they've got their social commitments, they're meeting people, interacting, and there's always this chatter going on. And in the midst of this, I can just imagine a lot of people finding it hard to achieve this mental silence because the chatter seems to be always going on, right? So,
Correct. But at the same time, our life is like that. You are flying somewhere. I mean, of course, there is no flight right now, but
yeah.
we all have to go somewhere. in the flight, you can close your eyes and be 10-minute silence. I mean, there's nothing, no chanting, no nothing. I mean, it just,
Hmm.
or you are waiting at the airport in a lounge or on a chair, you can close your eyes and close your mouth and experience that silence. So it
Hmm.
doesn't, it can be built in our lifestyle. And the importance, as we started, practice was the thing. Whichever routine you take,
Hmm.
you have to practice to be good at it, or get
Yeah,
the most of it.
absolutely. And I think practice is going to be the key, whether it's, trying to experience that silence and watch, the thoughts come by and then let it drift once again. In terms of watching, you talk about the concept of watching an emotional storm. So what do you mean by that?
So yeah, you can take it to the, so 4 steps. I said 4 steps are under your control.
Hmm.
Emotions are, they just come, right? I mean, when you will be angry, you cannot predict, because you will never be angry then.
Yeah.
So 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 if suddenly you become angry and you have practiced intermittent silence for a long time, you can take a pause and just watch that emotion, and you will be surprised that um, if the anger arises in more like energy body,
Mm.
and by the time it comes to the physical body, it is out of control most of the time.
Yeah.
So once you start watching this, get the art of watching your thoughts and sound, you also start the art of watching the emotions. And I'm using anger, but you could use any of those emotions, negative emotions, or even positive emotions. But can
Hmm.
you watch them from a little distance? Can you have a little separation between your emotions and yourself?
Hmm.
And once you have that, it's interesting, and then you can watch it next time, even before it arrives to the physical body.
Hmm.
You can feel like your whole body is getting tense, or something like vibrations are going on and it's coming on. So, and I'm not saying you have to do something, but just knowing it, just seeing it arise like that, and have that little separation, has miraculous effects.
Interesting. And I think that's great advice as well, because 2020 has been very challenging for many people around the world, whether it's, people's jobs or relationships, and a lot of change in general. And so people can sometimes have these thoughts about a happy relationship that is no longer there, or maybe thoughts about good health that they don't have at the moment, or maybe thoughts about having that job which they recently lost, right? And so what
Correct.
you're saying is, when that emotions or that energy seems to surge before it has reached the level of feeling, you try to distance yourself from that emotion that is surging, and you watch the emotion sort of unfurl and uncoil, and know that you are not the emotion, correct?
Well, yes. I mean, you can see the separation. I mean, it is
Yeah.
still you, but
Yeah.
you can see the separation, and that that visualization, that looking into yourself, creates some sort of helpful, things inside you, that you can deal with it better, or
Mhm.
easier. So it's interesting that sometimes just observation, works in a positive way.
Absolutely. And I think the theme for today is that we keep going back to the concept of practice, 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 right? Because it is not easy, as
No,
you
no,
might agree,
no,
to
no.
have these surge of emotions coming up and down our body. And no matter how much we try to let go of those emotions, they just come back in the mind. And so, for a
Yeah.
moment, try to distance yourself from these emotions, because you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions. You're not
Yeah.
even not your body, but that's comes back to the practice.
I know I call them consuming thoughts. I
Yeah.
mean, some thoughts are consuming it, and probably you have to go through that. It's like
Mm.
when when my father died. I mean, for 2 or 3 days you can't get it off. So say, okay, I will go through this. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes you have to accept some of those things rather than fight that, oh, I can't fight it. I should be able to fight it. There is nothing to fight. I mean, you can just say, okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
This emotional storm is going to last for 2 days. It's like sometimes my power goes off in my house.
Mm.
There is a storm outside, power goes off, and we live without power, or we manage somehow.
Yeah.
We work around it. The same way, some emotional storms will come and be there, but still you can watch them. You can, observe them, especially if you have been practicing intermittent silence for some time.
Got it. So I guess the practice helps you for the storm in the future. You might not have a
That's
storm right
that's the
now,
point. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just like in the morning, I have a cold shower every morning because I know that there's going to be a version of a cold shower in my life where I have to face the cold. And when that cold comes, when that winter comes, I'm going to be ready. So
Do
same
you
mindset,
ski?
I guess. Sorry,
Do you do you ski?
I do want to learn to ski. Although I live in
Okay.
Vancouver and this is
I
sort of
know.
the ideal place to ski, it's funny,
Yeah.
but I don't ski at the moment. And I have a friend who's like a master instructor at Whistler, and I've told him like
Hmm.
this time, hopefully, if the whole social, the
Yeah.
pandemic distancing issues easen out a bit, then I would want to learn how to ski.
Good. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah. What about you? Do you ski?
I tried, but it's like no. I didn't do very well. I fell more than I could ski. But yeah,
Yeah.
my son, my daughter, and grandkids, they all love skiing. So we spend
Well,
time.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, as a doctor of in the field of urology, what got you interested in creating an app on meditation? I mean, are you drawing from some of your practice in urology to realize that there is a need for meditation, or what's happening? What's the connection there?
No, the connection was it was kind of it evolved, I should say.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so this book I wrote, Journey from Life to Life, and I was giving book talks in libraries and other places, and
Okay.
people were asking questions, and then suddenly there was a suggestion that we should do a workshop because topic of meditation came. So we got some I had a psychiatrist friend, and one of the reverend, he's a chaplain in National Guard here. So we had a group of some people, very
Yeah.
brilliant people, minds. 6 of us got together and said, okay, we will do a workshop, meditation workshop, whole day
Hmm.
workshop. And
Yeah.
we booked the hall and everything. And then COVID came.
Oh.
so, so our workshop idea was gone. So then we said, okay, this is tough times. So we'll do some Zoom sessions. So in those Zoom sessions, I started doing these meditations, and we didn't advertise much, but we had 35, 40, 50 people, each session we
Mm.
did, and they all loved it. So I said, okay, why don't we put it in an app? So that's how it evolved. And then we
Mhm.
saw Headspace and Calm, and
Mhm.
one of the thing I realized that they have good stuff, very good stuff, and they're very popular, but they
Yeah.
don't have the deeper stuff.
Mhm.
So I thought, you know, because I have had this years of experience, why
Mhm.
not put together something that is? So we have 5 categories, and 3 of them I body, mind, and the flame. I think you are going there anyway, so we can talk a little bit about it. But
For sure, for sure. And flame is the right word because you've said that the goal of, or at least you've implied that the goal of intermittent silence is to open up to individual consciousness, right? So, what is your
yeah,
understanding of individual consciousness and what's stopping us from accessing it right away?
right. So again, so most work in meditation field that you will see, at least in the Western world,
Yeah.
is based on body and mind. So
Hmm.
body mind, equilibrium, body mind balance, body mind everything. I'm bringing this third dimension, which is not new, but
Hmm.
new to many people.
Yeah.
Because when people talk of consciousness, they talk of the bigger consciousness.
Yeah.
Individual consciousness is not discussed usually. So I give an example of. So when you say space, the space is anything under the blue sky, or now hyperspace or something beyond that, where there. But think of a house. When you build a house, there is a space inside that. There is a
Hmm.
door that opens to the outer space, but the house is a very individualized space.
Hmm.
The same way, we all have an individualized or individual um, consciousness
Hmm.
that opens up to the universal consciousness. So the physical body may die, mind part of mind may you know exist, but without the body, there's it doesn't mean anything.
Hmm.
But individual consciousness is the one that never dies. And I'm not saying it's soul or something, because individual consciousness has a level of awareness that we have,
Hmm.
and that awareness varies. Buddha will have a different level of awareness. You and I have a different level of awareness. And it goes very close to what seven chakras are, or what energy body is. The higher the energy body, the higher you are also in your individual consciousness. So the whole premise is that the individual consciousness cannot do anything without the physical body.
Hmm.
So that's why it's good to have a healthy body. It's good to have a comfortable body. It's good to have a relaxed body, because then you can work on not only individual consciousness, but also on your mind, which is important as well. So that's
Mm.
why, so healthy, comfortable body. And mind, I say a friendly mind, because many people start calling names, like monkey mind,
Yeah.
or you know
I've had a problem with that name for the longest time. The more you call your mind a monkey mind, the more you become the monkey.
while you have it all your life, at
Yeah.
least all your life, or
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
even after that, even after the physical body dies, mind
Right.
may be with you,
Yeah.
you know and you are calling it names. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
fair, right? So have
Exactly.
a friendly relationship with it. Yes,
Right.
it will go as just astray at times, but still
Yeah.
it's your mind. So,
Yeah.
but mind has two components, Ajay. One is minding, which all the psychiatry and psychologists study about, right?
Hmm.
Minding can be, minding, I call minding because it's an ongoing process. You cannot stop it. It will
Yeah.
continue doing something. And it may be positive things, it may be negative things, but minding is something that continues. And that's what we call monkey mind or something. The other one is called mindfulness.
Mm.
That one is an important part of mind. And I think, this is a component of mind, the mindfulness. And awareness is a component of individual consciousness.
Hmm.
And you won't know.
Awareness.
Yeah,
Can you say that
awa-
again?
awareness belongs to individual consciousness.
Okay.
So
Okay.
whenever, like when you meditate and people say, watch your thoughts, who is watching? The
Mm.
watcher is the individual consciousness. That
Okay.
awareness, that brings the awareness. Mindfulness is like a camcorder or recorder. So it's there, but you press the button, then it can record all the events. So
Hmm.
that's mindfulness. So there is subtle difference, but there is a big existential difference between mindfulness and awareness, because
Hmm.
awareness belongs to individual consciousness, mindfulness belongs to mind. It can record anything you want, basically in slow motion, right? I mean, mindfulness is do everything in slow motion, so
Yeah.
that you record every event consciously. You are doing that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So those three things are so the so when you bring in the whole component of individual consciousness, then you can
Hmm.
work on it. then anything you do, any meditation you do, you're not limited to mind body. You want to experience the next level, the flame. And I use the word flame because you can have a concept of flame smaller or larger,
Yeah.
and it's very much like a flame.
Yeah, I love the description that you gave about individual consciousness or personal consciousness, in the sense that if you're thinking about something, who's the one who's thinking it? If you're feeling an emotion, who's feeling
Right.
that emotion? Who's having this body? And then you sort of get an idea that there's a witness awareness that
Yeah.
is watching this journey unfold, and that's the individual consciousness. So, my question to you is, once you are doing these meditations and you are opening up to that individual consciousness, what happens next? What's the result or the byproduct of you opening up to your individual consciousness?
Yeah. We always think of meditation as if it has an end point.
Yeah.
Like I know I have the merit. It's not. It's an incremental thing that keeps
It's a
going.
progress.
It's like, yeah, it's like when we went into the space. It's like limitless, right? I mean, there is no
Yeah.
limit. It's like
Yeah.
we go to moon, then you have to go to Mars. Now they are
Mhm.
going to, they have sent a probe to sun. Um, so the same way, the inner thing, we feel like, outer world is so big, inner should be
Yeah.
very small. Inner is not that small. Probably inner is
Yeah.
even bigger. So yes, you can have some experience that we call minor explosion.
Yeah.
And in that journey, many people get some powers, they get stuck. Like we had, a beautiful person that I came across. His name was Bhutnath Baba,
Hmm.
and I was in medical school in those days. But he had this amazing gift that he developed during his, you know, spiritual journey, that he could read your mind, even
Mm.
on telephone. He will know exactly what you are thinking.
Yeah.
And he had other things as well. But it was, I mean, he didn't he, I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. But many people, when they get some of these powers, they stop there, and their journey stops there.
Mm.
Uh,
Right.
but yes, there are many things that can happen, and it's not fair for me to say, Ajay, you will become this powerful because you do this,
Mm.
because I don't know, which way your inner journey is going to take you.
Yeah.
And that's why I have another factor that I bring in here, if it's okay with you, is individual divine, I call it.
Hmm.
Because in this journey, you need some help, and there is no other company. I mean, I can't come with you. I can be a fellow traveler, but I'm not in your inner journey. So everybody has, some sort of individual divine that they have.
Hmm.
And if somebody is a Christian, he may have, Jesus come with him. He can say, hey Jesus, come with me. If I am a Hindu, I can say, hey Hanumanji, please come with me. So I think it should be left open to the individual who is doing this journey as to who his divine is.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I definitely see what you're saying, and I think it's very important to have this. I think in Hinduism it's called the Icha Devata, right? The
Ishta
personal
Devata, yeah.
Ishta
Yeah.
Devata, personal
Yeah.
personal God or personal divine that you
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
respect and
Every
draw.
village has a Ishta Devata, every household has a Ishta Devata.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think it's so
Um,
important because now it's considered cool to push away divinity because you're
yeah.
spiritual and you can draw from everything. But I
Right.
sense there's a need for, whether it's Jesus or whether it's Rama or Hanuman or some deity
Yeah.
that you can draw from in terms of just a spiritual energy, or maybe your guru or
Yeah.
somebody like that, right?
Right. Make it individual, but have some connection. I'm saying, because you need that help when you go there.
When you go there. And the thing is also, I've thought about this lately, that yes, we're spending billions and trillions of dollars for sending man or woman to Mars, and outer
Yeah.
space. But I think if you really think about it, look at the oceans. We've not discovered 80% of the oceans. And most
Right.
importantly, we've not discovered most of our mind. Like we don't know what's happening in there or out there, or how our mind is connected to what is out there. And so probably we need psychonauts, not astronauts,
Yeah.
but psychonauts,
And
to sort of
yeah.
delve inside and travel where
Yeah.
no man or woman has gone before, right? Because
No, I
it's
think
crazy, fascinating.
I have the same kind of thoughts that science should, or somebody should put, effort in this area, a serious effort, the same effort like Las Alamos effort. I mean, some
Mhm.
serious effort should go into this field, because at one time, like rishis, in India, they
Yeah,
were scientists. They were
they were scientists.
basically, that's what they were doing.
Yeah,
And the kings and other people were just trying to make sure that they are able to do what they are able to do.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, what I like about yoga, Ayurveda, Tantra is that it's a very experimental, empirical based approach, right? Where the focus,
yeah.
even if you read the text, it's about trying to replicate the same observation that you saw through that meditation, to
Yeah.
that Tantra, that mantra or yantra. You're trying to replicate the same results.
Right.
So I like that approach, that mindset. It's very,
Yeah.
very amazing.
Now
Uh,
I am really fascinated by your interest in this, and the fact that you are doing this, and the seven chakra name. I love that. Love that you call that.
yeah, I'm just doing
Why
my
did
small part. What?
I shouldn't be interviewing you, but why did you name it seven chakra? Is it like cool or?
So there's a story behind seven chakras. So basically, the idea is that when I awakened spiritually, I tried meditation, silent meditation, but that was not coming naturally to me. And so I went
Mhm,
elsewhere, and I stumbled upon a video which spoke about visualizing
mhm,
these seven colored chakras. And so I lay down on my bed, and after 15 minutes, I felt a shift. I felt different. I felt really good. And so that opened up something within me. And I said that, what are these chakras, and what is this thing that I'm feeling within? But the thing was that when I started my podcast, I did not want it to be about me, because then
mhm.
I would say AJ's seven chakras. But I said my seven chakras, so that somebody who's listening to the podcast can look in the mirror and say my seven chakras. In other
Yeah.
words, they can start their own journey just by looking in the mirror
Mhm.
and embarking on the journey that each one of us goes through, from the root to the crown, where Shakti meets Shivam, and then you
Mhm.
open up to your own, purpose or calling. So that was the idea. I want each one who listens to this episode or this show find their own journey and be their own heroes, so to speak.
So here is something I would recommend. At least you try it. So
Yeah.
there is a meditation on Relaxx app
Okay.
called Power Chakra,
Hmm.
and it's one of the mantras, uh, which is a Devi mantra or Shakti mantra, and that one goes, from first chakra to seventh chakra,
Okay.
and it does it 3 times. I want you to experience that, and drop me a note what you think, because that's one of the most powerful. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that to somebody beginners, but
Okay.
if you have experienced some chakra, you know, experience, I think you should at least give it a try.
100%. Because so far, what I loved the most and what I found really effective when it comes to balancing the chakras is the mantras, so, bija
Yeah,
mantra. So lang,
yeah,
vang, rang,
yeah.
yang,
For each chakra, there is a
or
mantra. Yeah,
chakra. Yeah.
but
So that
but
is
this
really powerful.
this is a mantra on each chakra, and don't try to recite the mantra
Okay.
outside. Just let
In
it
the mind.
internalize on each
Mm.
chakra.
Okay.
When it does tell you, go to first chakra, go to second. So
Okay. There
so
you go.
wow, now.
I I manifest sometimes. I keep it in my mind. I say, I need to come across mentors, people who can give me the next step on my journey when it comes to chakra healing or spiritual awakening. And it might just be that I need to do that meditation that you recommended. So I'm going to definitely try it out.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know how much time you have left. I wanted to I mean, did you want to touch base on the topic we started on Bhagavad Gita, the one, the result thing? Do you want?
That is my next question, actually. I mean, we've got 20 minutes more.
Okay.
But actually, that was a topic that I was going to get into. Firstly, I wanted to start with what influence does Krishna and the
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita have on you? I mean, your name is Krishna. So,
Yeah, no, Krishna is my passion. I mean, and Bhagavad Gita is my guru, guide, or whatever. I love Bhagavad Gita, and I have written one book on first two chapters on Gita today, and that's
Mhm.
also on Amazon today. Amazon available, but that just two things. One, you said, as a coach, I always love to, remember the first shloka, and everyone reads that dharma kshetre kurukshetre. That's how it starts, and it fascinates me, really. I mean, really. So they didn't say it is just kurukshetra. It's not just a place where you act out.
Mhm.
It's also a place where you have values.
Mhm.
Like, I said dharma means value of the universe, value system of the universe.
Mhm.
So both are not separate. So we many times say materialism, leave materialism to go to spiritualism, but Gita doesn't say that. The first two words are that they are both together. So where the war is happening, there is also the value system to be maintained there. The spiritualism is also there. So even today, election is happening in USA,
Yeah.
but still the country has to have a value system as well. So
Mm.
yes, people are going to vote and everything, but still that is important. Otherwise, if the value system is disrupted, then I mean, you can have elections and you can have high energy people, but that high energy is channeled in a different way.
Mm. Yeah, that's very interesting. And the quote that comes to my mind right now, based on what you shared, is the quote that says, "Wherever you go, there you are." Right. So it's not
Yeah,
about separating and leaving your spirituality at home, but it's
right.
bringing your spirituality to everything that
Exactly.
you do. Your
No,
work,
that, yeah,
your school, your relationships, everything needs to reflect your spirituality. So it's not
yeah,
just if you do yoga on the mat, it's everywhere. Right.
yeah. Your peace should travel with you, right? So,
That's
so
deep.
no, but that's true, right? If you are peaceful, the
Yeah.
peace should travel with you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so when it comes to the shloka that everybody says that do your karma and forget about the result,
Mm.
I have a little different understanding. I'm not saying they're totally wrong because they
Mhm.
explain very nicely how they do. But
Mhm.
I say my understanding is that um, the shloka doesn't say that don't worry about result. It simply says that the karma, your action is in your hands. Result is not in your hands totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then whose hand, so the way I see it is that, okay, you do your, karma, you do your action, but there is more to it than just the karma. And what are those more things? And if you see, Mahabharata or Krishna's life, he does those more things.
Mm.
So he makes sure that Arjun is trained well. He makes sure that Arjun has all the weapons. He even makes sure that other people don't have the weapons that could destroy Arjun or Pandavas. So there is a very nice shloka in Gita in 18th chapter, which I have a whole chapter on in my book,
Mhm.
and that is five pillars of success.
Mhm.
So I put this shlok, which says, do your karma, and the karma is in your control, not the result. And the five pillars of success, which says that, the five pillars he mentions is first one is the platform. It's like the same person on a president's platform can do a different job than as a businessman. Or Narendra Modi as chief minister can do, has limitations, but as prime minister, he can do more. So that platform is important. Then the vyakti, the person, quality of the person is important. The same platform, if you have, Hitler there, it may be a different ball game, right? Or Duryodhan there is a different ball game. So that person is important. And then Karanam means, the tools. Like, USA has got, different destructive weapons than many other countries. So it can achieve more, power or whatever because of that. So, it could be medicine. I may have the robot that I can use, whereas some hospitals may not have the robot. So I can, get better results because of that. And then he says that, prithak vidham means, you try different approaches. So for a country, you can say, okay, I'll put a bargain, ban on some things, or economic ban or social ban or whatever, those things you can do, a sports ban. So you can use different styles and different approaches. But fifth one is divine. So even in Mahabharata, Hanuman is on that, the chariot that Arjun is, riding. And that's a divine denoting divine. And then there was before he started, even Ram, when he goes to conquer Ravan, he does Shiv Sthapana in Rameshwaram. There is a place. So all these things didn't just happen just like that, because they do. So your action is not the only thing that will get you the result. You have many other things to take care of, and you should take care of those things. That's how I see it.
Right. Interesting. So it's not just about your actions, but it's about creating the right environment that is conducive for results.
Right.
Whether it's a spiritual, divine environment or whatever it is. So not just about your actions, but there are some other factors as well. Now, for those who are listening and are wondering what is Mahabharata, do you mind giving like a quick 10-second or 15-second understanding of what the Mahabharata is and what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, in short, it was kind of a world war of its time, which was happened 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And there were, there was a king Duryodhan who was kind of the bad guy, and the Pandavas, which were 5 brothers, were kind of the good guys. And Krishna, if you denote him as a divine, he took the side of the good guys. And there was a war, and many people died. And of course, you can say it was all bad. Why the war happened, and could have been avoided. But sometimes those things are needed. And it's the last resort, of course. Unfortunate. But sometimes good things come out of those things.
And what would you say is your favorite scene from the Mahabharata, or maybe your favorite dialogue, or something that's happening?
Well, it's a favorite is interesting because Krishna character interests me.
Yeah.
Like Ram is an ideal person.
Yeah.
I cannot, yes, I can respect him. I can, worship him, but I cannot think of becoming him. But Krishna does fascinate because he lives like you and me. So he makes a promise that he will not, use a weapon in that war. But he breaks his promise. And, there are explanations of why he breaks his promise. But I mean, it's just interesting that he's not going to stay into the mold that you and I can mold him. Like Ram is very much, you can say, ideal person, how he can live. I mean, you can criticize him for some of his actions, but he's predictable. Krishna is totally unpredictable. And is still fascinating, is still respectable. And they are two different characters. And that scene really, breaking a promise, I mean, you might say, why do you want to remember that? But, it's like more being, he was more on a human level as well as on a higher plane.
Hmm. And I guess those qualities make people feel closer to him, closer to Krishna than to Rama. Because I know people call Rama the Man Maryada Purush, right?
Right.
Because in
Yeah.
every juncture of his life, he did something that was based on what is right and not necessarily what is good for him, even if
Right.
it meant, staying away
Leaving
from his
Sita.
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so, for somebody who's on the spiritual journey, somebody who has recently awakened to a new way of living, which is spiritually, what are one or two questions that somebody who's on this path needs to ask of themselves?
Well, I think, as we talked about, beginning, he has to put it in the routine of life, because sometimes we do certain things, we do it for a month, and then it just drops out on the wayside. So um, that routine is important, and I always say that if you do a meditation same time, same place, and same kind of same routine,
Hmm.
that place starts waiting for you, your body starts waiting for you, and I think the whole atmosphere just creates itself so that you do it
Yeah.
routinely, and the effect is always compound. I mean, it's not like additive effect, it's like more like a potentiation, or just logarithmic rather than just a linear.
Hmm.
Yeah. And one of the things about meditation, of course, you um, is taking it a little further, is you can, you, me, or whoever can do so far. I mean, we can go so far in meditation. I mean, basically, in meditation, we talk as if we are doing something. Basically, we are
Hmm.
creating a situation where meditation happens, like
Yeah.
sleep.
Hmm.
Switch off the light, you lie down in the bed, but sleep comes to you. You can't force sleep on you, right? So
Yeah.
the same way meditation happens to you, you create a surrounding or chakra or music or whatever.
Hmm.
But then there comes a point where um, it's like a Buddhist call it sotopan, like a stream rider. So there is a river that's flowing, and you jump in the river, and then
Hmm.
the stream takes you over. So
Hmm.
there comes a point where, when I said the new doors start opening, suddenly a wave comes and takes you away. And
Mm.
those experiences are a little bigger explosions than minor explosions. And
Right.
so that's the so yeah, I don't think that everything is in your control or my control. But
Yeah.
yes, we can at least start the journey, start the practice on a routine basis,
Yeah.
and then even Buddha had to wait for it to happen.
Yeah, I love the imagery that you conjured up by talking about the wave, because a while back I had a conversation with a qigong teacher who said
Yeah.
something similar. And
Mhm.
in qigong, you have you talk about where attention goes, energy flows, right?
Yeah.
And so what he said is, when it comes to qigong or tai chi, you can try to swim in the ocean, and you can swim against the wave is going to come crashing against you. Or if you're really experienced and you're smart, you can wait for the wave and then ride the wave. That way you're expending less energy, you're using the entire tidal force of the entire ocean to go towards where your energy or your focus wants to direct it. That's the
Yeah.
ultimate, but you got to wait for the wave.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
sometimes it will come for you.
Interesting. And so I'm very curious about something that you wrote. You said, while many see birth, life, and death as a finite series of events in a period prescribed by time, you said that Asian based views are far more likely to see the human experience as mere stopping points along an eternal journey, one that has no beginning and no end. So My question to you is, as a doctor who has progressed in your career based on empirical evidence, right? Based on your decisions are basically empirical, experimental. Do you sometimes find it hard to believe that the human experience is an eternal journey, one that has no beginning or end? So how do you come into terms with this?
Well, we know that we have a beginning and end. We know we are born and we die,
Yeah.
but we don't know what happened before and what happened after.
Yeah.
And if we think that this is it,
Yeah.
the unseen world is bigger, much bigger than the world we see.
Mhm.
And so we are manifestations, in for a short period of time in the eternal existence.
Yeah.
And we sometimes like to think that we control our beginning and end. We know that we don't control beginning and end. So yes, it's an ongoing journey, but one thing is sure, while I am here, I want to do everything well. I want to use my times, as precious as, every moment.
Mhm.
And I want to be in that journey where the individual consciousness level rises. I contribute to the society. I leave, as you said, a legacy. It's like, and legacy is in many terms different ways. Even if you leave legacy of thought waves,
Yeah.
different thought waves, you have done service. I mean, they may not have, like, I mean, in case of Buddha, I mean, I think he became, the Buddhism became really alive after Ashoka, I mean, many years after him.
Yeah.
But the thought process and everything that he has, given existed, right? So
Very true.
I mean, yeah. So it's yeah. I mean, there is no short answer to your,
That's a very
vast
profound, deep
vast
question, right?
question.
And so I guess what you're saying is, the very fact that we just magically wake up as a from fetus level to baby level, and then we miraculously just lose consciousness. There has to be something before the full stop and after the full stop. I mean, you can't
Yeah,
just cease to exist.
yeah,
And of course, it's a hard question, right? It's the hard problem of consciousness in a way that, where do you think consciousness stops, or does it stop even? But I guess what you're also saying is, between these brackets, after we are born and before we die, we got to do the best that we can to leave a legacy, or maybe even leave a work that's going to be useful for the next generation or so.
right. I think that's what is our higher purpose of life.
Mm, very interesting.
I mean, we can come and live and die. I mean, that's actually, I'll tell you one of the. I mean, this book talk was inspiring to me. A revelation. I mean, I
Yeah.
learned so much from people.
Yeah.
So, one of the nurses came to me one day and said, like, she, she had a relative, and she said, "I want to share this story with you." I said, "Okay, go ahead."
Hmm.
So this relative was sick. He was not that old, but in the 70s. But he was very sick and he was kind of dying. And one of the relatives went close to him and said, "So, what do you think about your life? How did you do in your life?" And he opened his eyes, looked at her, and said, "Wasted."
Mm.
So, you know, he had alcohol issues, he had drug issues, and he was going. But I think I don't want to. I mean, the lesson I learned from that is that I don't want to be in a situation where I can say I wasted my life.
You don't want to have
So,
that sense of regret.
sense of that feeling. I mean, I don't know, regret or yeah. I mean, yeah, kind of. Yeah, you're right.
Mm.
So why not do everything I can do, and then I can say, okay, I did my, you know, my
Yeah.
share of whatever years I spend here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and talking about life, you've written that in the greater the goal, the greater the difficulties. So, what made you come to that conclusion when it comes to life?
Well, I mean, greater the goal, greater the difficulties, but greater you achieve as well. I mean, maybe I didn't put that one there.
Okay.
No, but but yeah, I mean, we all should have great goals. I mean, that's how we should. I mean, if we have, our goal is to just have a banana every day,
Hmm.
that's one goal. But if you have a goal that you will share banana with 10 other people, I mean, that's a suddenly, it increases your whole heart, space, and everything kind of expands, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, this is not the greatest example of great goal, but any goal that you have,
Yeah.
it can be multiplied. I mean, that's the thing. And
Mm.
yeah, leave the
That's
world a little better place than you came in.
that's so true. I mean, it doesn't. You don't need to end hunger or find the cure to malaria, but even if you're leaving the place a little bit better than you came,
Yeah,
then that could also be a noble and worthy goal. Um,
true.
Interesting.
But everyone has, there are people who are ending malaria, there are people who are
There
ending
are.
hunger,
Yeah.
and you and I are doing something different. So
Yeah.
we all, all together, it becomes a better world.
Yes. Togetherness is what makes a difference. And one of the
Yeah.
things I've heard is a goal called a moonshot goal. I'm not sure if you've come across that term, which is a goal so big that the moment you think about it, you're like, you gasp in awe because you feel that's so much beyond what you think is possible for you. And I think sometimes it's good to have these huge goals which really pull you in every way possible. And maybe you don't achieve that goal, but then along the pursuit of achieving that goal, you're so much different now.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, I mean, moonshot goals, you can, it may sound, but what JF Kennedy said, he wanted to go to send man to moon. At
Yeah.
that time, there was no technology. They didn't know
Yeah.
how, but some that dream became possible, right?
Hmm.
Or Modi now says, 5 trillion economy in certain period of time.
Yeah.
And I mean, many people say that, is he crazy? But
Mhm.
that's the thing. I mean, if you have big goals for wherever you are,
Yeah.
that you can ask people to reach, then things might materialize.
It's very true. And I love that you say that we should not differentiate materialism from spiritualism, right? I mean, you need both need to go hand in hand.
I
You
want
need
both, right? Yeah.
both, right? You need to have that
Right.
platform. You need to have
Yeah.
those tools. You need to have
Right.
that consciousness, and then
Yeah.
you can actualize your journey on earth. So, Action Tribe, if you're listening to this episode, ask yourself, what is my moonshot goal? What do I truly want to do that if I say right now is going to really give me the goosebumps because I know I can do it, but at the same time, I'm kind of scared, you know. And so,
Yeah.
Krishna, what is your moonshot goal? I know you are a high achiever. You've done so many things in your life. You have patients that whose lives you've changed, and now you're embarking on a new journey. So, what would you say is your moonshot goal? What is the kind of legacy that you want to leave on this earth?
Well, what I have been telling here, in my, thoughts and discussion is that could US become the spiritual destination of the world? Because there is all the infrastructure is here. I mean, here, US or Canada, and I mean, I have been say, Appalachian Trail. It's thousands of miles, and there are huts, at every short distances that you can stop and have beer and have sandwich and sleep. Why
Yeah.
can't you just meditate there?
Mm.
I mean, that's what India did. Himalayas. You go and you have stops there. I mean,
Yeah.
there was just think of that probably as a hike, long hike. But we don't think of it as a hike there. We think of it as a tirth yatra. you
Yeah.
know
That's true.
But that's what people used to do. People used to
It's
walk. I
very
mean,
true.
before the roads, you know. So
Mm.
that's one of the things. I don't know how it will happen, but that's one of my moonshot.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I also like the more that I am connecting the dots between yoga and modern science, I'm getting to know that all these yogis, they lived the lifestyle that was not only good for spirituality but also for wellness. Because if you think about
Yeah,
it, they were having cold water baths in the water. They were eating berries and really nutritious food, or sometimes not even eating that much food, meditating a lot and exposing them to cold. And as you know, there are
and
so many benefits,
and
right, to those.
walking was built in their lifestyle.
And walking was built into the lifestyle. How amazing.
Yeah,
So I
that's
love
right.
your goal, and in any way if I can support it, I'm more than happy to do so. I live in British Columbia, so not sure if you've been here, but there are so many beautiful things about this province and places to explore, to hike, to swim, to canoe, to paddle, to meditate. So there's a lot
Oh,
of
great.
space here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
So thanks a
So,
lot for sharing. Sorry, were you saying
no,
something?
thank you, and it's very nice to meet you
Thank you. Action
and
Tribe, I
your
hope you
audience.
enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners loved hearing what you shared as well. And you did share a lot. Action Tribe, I hope you enjoyed today's session as we move along. I know many of you have this vision deep within you. Maybe you want to start a new career, launch a new business, or embark on a new passion. Or maybe you have that moonshot goal that you really want to achieve. Whenever you take action, you expect results, right? And as we're learning today, sometimes the results might take time, a lot of more time than you initially expected. And just not seeing those immediate results can bring you down, make you lose hope, or even worse, it can affect your health. Now, monitoring your results is important. It's a good habit, but remember that not everything is within your control. Just look at what is happening right now with COVID and this crazy coronavirus pandemic that has almost every area of our life affected: jobs and schools and vacations and relationships and more. And I know that many of you were really depending on 2020 for the results that you've been working so hard for. But like I said, not everything is our control. What is within our control is the work that you do, the actions that you take, and the conditions that you create for that wave that is going to come into your life, and how you manage your energy as well. And just like it is written in the Bhagavad Gita, you have the right to work, but for the work's sake only. You have no right to the fruits of the work. Desire for the fruits of the work must never be your motive in working. Do the work, create the conditions, whether it's emotional or even spiritual, but wait for the wave, have the patience. And with that being said, it's now time for the last round for today, the wisdom round. Four questions so that our listeners can take note and take action. So, Krishna, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received in your life?
So, as a doctor, the best piece of advice was a Scottish mentor of mine. You know, he sat me down and as if he was going to give me some big, lesson or something, and just says, "Don't take anything casual in surgery." So that
Mm.
was one of the best advice. I didn't understand at that time. It took me some time to understand, but it's a very deep, deep advice for anybody in any serious work, especially life and death.
Wonderful. And if you could turn back time and spend 1 hour with someone living or dead, who would it be?
I, I was too busy and my father was too busy. So, I would probably like to spend a little bit more time with my father. But
And what is that thing
that's
you
it.
do in the morning? Sorry. So basically, you'd like to spend more time with your father, right?
Yeah.
Um, my next question was, what is it one thing you do in the morning or in the evening before you sleep that has improved the quality of your life?
It's funny. The answer for both is a meditation. So when I go to sleep, I sleep with a meditation. Of course, recently I've been doing Om Chakra meditation, which is one of the meditations on that Relaxx app, which is basically it's a very nice Om sound which goes through all the chakras. I won't do the power chakra in this before sleep because I won't be able to sleep because it's so powerful.
Okay,
So in the morning, I do power chakra or I do intermittent silence. And
got it. And what is that one book that you'd like to recommend for our listeners today?
well, I have to say, Journey from Life to Life. Um, so apart from that, there is a book. I love that book, and if you get a chance, you should read it. And it's called Hidden Mysteries by
Mhm.
Osho, and it's just it's a wealth of information there, wealth
Wonderful.
of
Thanks.
mystical information.
But I've just written that down. We'll have that in the show notes as well. Action Tribe, would you like to receive this book for free? That's right. Audible is offering all our listeners, that is you, Action Tribe, one free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial, which means you'll get the opportunity to listen to a book as opposed to read a book. And you can choose any book you want from their large library of books. All you need to do is go to my7chakras.com/free book. Once again, that's my7chakras.com/free book. And when you have an audiobook, it can be on your phone. You don't have to carry a physical book, and you can listen to it just like a podcast wherever, in transit, at work, or at home. My7chakras.com/free book. So Krishna, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really amazing to connect with you, learn about the wisdom of the Gita and everything that you shared about today. Before you go, tell us one thing that you are grateful for, and how can we find more about you online, and how can listeners download your app?
So relax.org, and relax is with two X, relaxx.org. You can go there and you can download from there on Android or iPhone app, and that's great. And my personal website is krishnauniverse.com, and do visit that, and you might find some wisdom there.
Wonderful. We'll have both these links up in the show notes. Action Tribe, download the app, go to relax.org. There are two X's in the domain name, and also krishnauniverse.com. Are you active on Instagram at all?
I am, but trying to get more active, as I go along. But
Perfect.
yeah, KBHA,
ABHA? Okay.
K for Krishna, BHA.
Perfect. So, all of you listeners, go on Instagram, search for Dr. Krishna Bhatta's Instagram handle, KBHA. Also, tag me at My Seven Chakras after taking a screenshot of this episode so that we both can share your story with our community and we can spread the word. As next steps, if you'd like to discover the power of breath work. And if you'd like to join in the discussion that's happening in our official group right now, go to my7chakras.com/tribe. And I'd love to connect with you one on one. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions or comments, go to or email me at aj at my7chakras.com. Seven is a word. So aj at my7chakras.com. Krishna, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode, talking to us about the power of intermittent silence and awakening our individual consciousness and also taking us one step closer to a human revolution.
Thank you.
All right. So we're ending this broadcast. Thanks, everybody.